Welcome to the Mad Singers Management Podcast from madsingers.com, where entrepreneurs and business managers learn and share. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a review.
Hello and welcome to this next episode of Mad Singers Management Podcast. Today I'm lucky enough to be joined by my good friend Davide, who lives in Japan. Davide, welcome to the show.
Hi everyone. Hi Mads.
So Davide, obviously a lot of people don't know you. So if you wouldn't mind just starting giving everyone sort of a brief introduction of who you are and what your business is and so on.
Yeah, my name is Davide. I'm from Italy. I moved to Japan about 11 years ago as a language student. So I just came here to study Japanese first. And then after about a year, I put up a website, started a business about helping other people to live and study in Japan. Of course, at the beginning, it was more like an idea. And then, luckily enough, we were able to grow to the point that we are helping as the most number of Western students to live and study in Japan than anyone else. So it's getting really busy, but it's also still very exciting.
Excellent. That sounds like a lot of fun. So generally, what do you consider to be your management philosophy, right? As in, when you think management, like what is sort of your high level thoughts and how do you think about managing people in general?
Ooh, that's a really, seems simple, but I think it's a tough question. First of all, I don't really think myself to be a good manager. I think, I personally never really study management as a subject, or I never really took management classes. I think there's really a lot to learn for me. Obviously, for the role I have, for the fact that our company grew in size and numbers, I had to learn the hard way a lot of concepts. A lot of things were taught to me, to people that I encountered in my journey. Like, for example, when I met you, Mads, you introduced us to one-on-one, different personality, the disc and everything. That was extremely useful, not just for me, but for everyone that was listening listening you when you came to our Tokyo office. For me, if I want to say one thing, it's really about knowing your people. I think I rarely have a strategy or a technique that you can use to say that, I'm using this management technique and using this management trick to be able to solve this issue. It's more like really understanding who are you in front. And the only way to get to this understanding is through continuous feedback. That, for example, could be a regular one-on-one session where you learn on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, depends on the frequency, from the person working together with you in your company. Definitely.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you enjoy the most about managing people, David?
This actually, I think it's a lot of fun. I'm not like, even though, again, I have a lot to learn. I think being constantly put in a situation where there are problems that are usually not what we say it's a problem, but is more around the person in that moment having the problem. So again, sometimes the answer seems simple, but actually the real answer is not that simple. You really need to dig into why this is becoming an issue for that specific person at that specific time in that specific team. So there is a lot of thinking. It's very interesting. It's a multidimensional challenge versus sometimes business is easy, because business sometimes is just plus and minus, very straightforward. Negotiation sometimes, again, is just finding the middle ground, but managing people, it's a lot more complex, and complexity is challenge for some people are a positive thing, and I really enjoyed having those challenges on a daily basis.
Okay, and that perfectly leads into the next question, which is, what's the biggest challenge that you have overcome in your management career?
I can say today's biggest challenge, because every day there is a big challenge. We are discussing, for example, a bonus right now, and it's always hard to find like team bonus for some certain goals, and the point that employees have and the team have absolutely makes sense. The point that the company has also makes sense because there are some limitation, and in that case, again, the way to have a successful outcome is not having the other person to accept your point of view, obviously, because that will lead in a long-term disaster, even though you can get short-term approval. The way is really understanding why the team has that point of view, and see the way to get them what they want, maybe on a different timing or on a different situation, just because it's not possible right now, and finding the right way to also explain that, because sometimes even though you think you're right, but if you don't explain it the right way, that's not possible. So again, it's really like having a lot of empathy and sensibility on what is said. But yeah, that would be like, if you ask me today, that there was a tough meeting we went through. I think it went really well. We were very open and honest in expressing our feeling. People disagree, but in the way people disagree, you really see when there is a future long-term relationship, because we cannot always agree on everything.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. When you look at other people, I mean, you've met a lot of entrepreneurs and so on. What do you consider to be most different in your management style compared to what you've seen other people do?
Yeah, that's something that I have never thought about. I think maybe instead of that, because you really need to know someone, I would say, to compare yourself. Like, let's say I should have worked, for example, with you in your company, Mats, for like a year, and then I can say, okay, my management style is different because of that.
Sure.
But what I feel sometimes around me, maybe people that something that maybe I've learned to do a bit better with the years, and sometimes I can spot in people that that hasn't been developed so much, is again having patience and also thinking more to the long-term goal for both parties, rather than getting a yes or getting something achieved right now that maybe could not be good in a month to the person that just say yes. So I don't think it's right to think that managing someone is basically communicating necessarily your vision or agreeing on a yes that is what you want. It's more like really having the patience and having the long-term vision to sometimes find common ground, sometimes actually completely change your point of view, because the input from the staff, from the team, is actually what will bring the company, maybe not now, but in a year or in 2 years, to an even higher point. So maybe that's having that patience and having the long-term understanding is something that is really helping me now. And in the past, I didn't have it, and I did way many more mistakes because of that.
Yep. That makes a ton of sense. What from a management perspective, what's the biggest change, or what's the biggest thing that you've done that have made the biggest change within your company?
I think it was really introducing one-on-ones, to be very honest. How did it happen? Because it's related to you, Mats. We met first in Bangkok, and then we met a few weeks after in Hong Kong. It's funny because I remember a lot of details of our meetings, but I don't know which year was, not even close. Like, I could mistake by 3 or 4 years. That's so funny. Right now it's just pretty weird, but I definitely remember even the rooms, the places we met, and everything. And you had this presentation in Hong Kong. So I think in Thailand, in Bangkok, there was this big conference where we didn't really have the chance to talk much. Of course, we introduced each other. We probably said that we were going to meet to the next one in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, actually, you had a presentation, and it was a way much smaller conference where I had the chance to talk to you more, and you explained to us one-on-ones, like few basic, straightforward, simple concepts. But I felt that was going to be a game changer for our company. At that time, we were about, I would say, like 15, 16 people. And I invited you to have the same speech that I heard to everyone. And after that, I think the one thing that we really picked, it was doing one-on-one. So basically, from the week after, we decided everyone in the company has to have a weekly one-on-one with their manager. So it must happen. And since then, again, it could be 3 years ago or 30 years ago. I don't remember when we had this conversation. But since then, we never stopped having them. And now that we are about 50 people, we change our office, and still everyone has a weekly one-on-one. Sometimes it's bi-weekly just because of the type of work. The person is often outside the office, but it's still a constant, and it's really changed big time. The staff retention, the quality of the training, the feedback, the speed of fixing issue when they're still small, and so on.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, right? Because the majority of people, the first time you talk about one-to-ones, they're like, "Wow, do I have to talk to people like every week?" And they're like, a lot of people is kind of blown away, but everyone says the same thing. Like, as soon as you start doing them, it's where the biggest value is, right? So it's definitely one of those things you just have to start doing, right?
Exactly. And sometimes it takes even more time just to try to set up a meeting. When are you available? Oh, I need to move it. Can we reschedule? While where you have a regular meeting, that's really the secret, right? You know that every Monday at 10:30 a.m. I'm going to meet my staff in that meeting room, and that's a routine. So positively, we know that we are going to meet there, and we know we're going to bring our problems. So there is also less kind of troubleshooting during the week, because if the problem is not huge, the staff knows that, can bring up to me on Monday, and I can focus myself as much as possible. Those 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depends how long you want to do, because I also know that that's the time I have dedicate to the staff.
Yeah. Okay. Really good. Really good. So, like, obviously you have a pretty large organization nowadays. So what are you doing specifically to make sure the managers that you have under you and the management team you have under you performs as well as possible?
Yeah, so I don't think my company is large. I think we are still pretty small, and it's there is a lot to do. But for the person that specifically report to me, unfortunately, again, this is probably another sign that I'm definitely not a great manager, and there is so much to learn, and maybe it's just probably something I would never become. Of course, I will improve. I want to improve, but I don't think I'm a fantastic manager. There is not really a formal training or a formal process that people under me needs to go through in order to be extremely good, extremely effective with the other employees. Yep. And that's something really we are lacking. Like, I don't see this as a plus. I don't see something like to brag about. It's something really not ideal, and is probably affecting us. However, I surely try my best to show in first person the value of those concepts. So I always do the one-on-ones. I have concentrated my one-on-ones, for example, on Mondays and half of Tuesday. So I have really, if you see my schedule on Mondays, it's just one-on-one. But that's I do because I know that Monday I would never be off. Doesn't matter what happened, of course, 99% of the times. But as much as possible, I know that Monday and morning on Tuesday is my one-on-one time. And when I have an holiday, maybe I take Friday off. I don't take Monday. If you want to have a long weekend, I never take Mondays. So those kind of things, I think giving an example, if I'm the first one that skip the one-on-one, so don't pay attention to one-on-ones, of course I give a message that it's okay to do so. But on the other side, if I really value them, and I really believe, of course, that are important, I think this kind of goes through all the company, hopefully. But yeah, I don't have a proper teaching or training for senior management at the moment.
Okay. Do you have any great ways that you feel of identifying the next managers? Like, so right now, obviously, you're constantly, the company is constantly developing, right? So you have people who are moving into positions, and you've had people getting promoted and so on. Do you have a good system, do you feel, in terms of making sure that there's new people coming up through the ranks and they're getting identified and so on?
Although I do believe that the senior management right now is amazing. We are extremely lucky to have people like that in that place, considering we are not a big company, not a famous company. It was really through hard effort in looking for people, or people that just started in the entry-level position, they grew up in the company. So although those are extremely good people, again, we don't really have a proven method to select them. I don't feel confident to say that, I give you this advice, and then also for your company, you will be able to find or to train a senior manager like we did.
Sure.
So maybe we talk again in 5 years, hopefully I have an answer.
Yeah. Sounds good. That's it. Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big benefits you have is that you've actually been able to hire a lot of your clients over time, right?
Yeah. Surely. That works really well for us.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting with the specific business you do, right? Because a lot of people are not in that situation, right? But when you hire people who have been on the other side, they obviously know your product, and it gives a different view, right? So that's interesting. Okay. Well, we've said it already. We definitely aren't perfect. So what's the one thing that you feel that either personally or within your company that you're currently trying to improve?
I personally first try to improve the way I train people, in the sense of like really teaching things to people, explaining things to people. I think I could definitely be more effective. I think I do okay in showing how things are done. I think my work ethic is pretty all right. And I think it's alive in the company. People can see that. However, when it's a matter of really going through, talking with someone about how they should do, and I'm not talking about like really practical stuff. I'm talking about, for example, management. Like I wanna try. I have the experience, so I really know how it should be done. But if I have to put in words, I'm not really good at it. So that's something I need to figure it out, because I know the way you say things is as important sometimes, unfortunately, but as important as what you say. That's something personally. As a company, I mean, again, it's the same question when you said, what's your big challenge you had? It's like, there are so many things, but it's a good thing, because when you have those so many things, it means there is so much room for improvements. I think we have done 1% of what we could do as a business, as people. There is really so much. For example, and that's again comes from myself, but we are not much structured. We are not awfully unstructured. I think we did a lot of improvements in the past few years, but at the same time, with a little bit more of structure, again, not hierarchy, not too much, but with a bit more of structure, we could really achieve higher goals. And another thing is interdepartment communication, which again has improved massively from the past. However, there are still, sometimes we find out people that are doing things that also other people in another department are already doing. that's, of course, it sucks for everyone. Like, you find out that you spend so many hours on a weekly basis on something that someone else was already doing, and also had the same feeling of spending hours on a weekly basis. And this, of course, it's a death for any company trying to grow. Like, more people you add, but more overhead you have, and less productive you become. So we're trying to work on the ways to avoid this. Otherwise, the growth will stop at some point.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Very good, David. So, any other tips, tricks, or any sort of, that could be tools or anything that you feel you've learned that you want to share with the audience?
In terms of management, right?
Yeah, from a management standpoint, yeah.
I think maybe it's also repetition. Some part of it is a repetition of what was said at the beginning, but really knowing your people, be prepared. If you have especially a difficult conversation or a difficult discussion or a challenge to overcome, a negotiation, a salary discussion, a bonus discussion, or a change of a team, all those things that are the hard things, because the easy things are easy, everyone can do. Try to really know the person first, and if you should already know it, obviously. You shouldn't study the person you're managing. But in any case, think really a lot about the person, why is coming, when he's saying that, why the person is saying that, instead of just focusing on the thing he says, but where this thing come from. And also try always to focus on the long term versus the short term. So you don't really want to force the hand. I would say ever, unless it's really like an extreme situation, like, there could be the case where you really need to be a bit aggressive and strong, but usually it's way much better to really try to find what works best for both parties, for you and the team member long term. So those two things together, I think, really are really helping me. And if you ask me for one advice, it's the first thing that comes to my mind. But as you know more than me, management is a wonderful and huge word. There are so many techniques, many tools, and each situation, something may work, something not. So it's very hard to find like an answer for everyone or for every situation. But yeah, that's what I would suggest.
Excellent. Any software tools you feel you use in the company that are extremely valuable to you?
We're using Asana as a project management, so it's not really like people management, but there are some people management factors in the way we use Asana. For example, I personally share the agenda of my one-on-ones on Asana.
Yeah.
So instead of having the person, because before what was happening, we were supposed to share the agenda before the meeting, which is great, right? You're already prepared about what could be the challenge or what the person wants to talk about. Yeah. What eventually happened, and I think unless you have a very, very structured person working with you, it's 95% of the case happen is that the agenda first at the beginning starts very nice and early, and then it starts getting late and confusing. And then eventually you still get agenda because that was the deal, but you get agenda 5 minutes before the meeting, and there is no point because it's like talking live. Yeah. But with Asana, what you could do, you could add tasks, which are actually agenda topic. Anytime it comes on your mind, you can just add it. So you don't have to send a formal email or a formal agenda. You can really add one by one, and it's better to have it earlier, of course, for both of us. It worked really well for us. Asana. So that's the tool we're using. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's pretty much all for me, David. If people are desperate getting in contact with you, etc., what's the best way of reaching you?
You could surely send me an email on my Davide@gogoword.com, which is GoGoWord is our company name and my first name, or you probably are going to be able to find me on LinkedIn as well with my name and surname, Davide Rossi. So I think either of those are going to work.
Excellent. And I'll include that in the show notes as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you very much.
So that's excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Davide. Great to hear from you. And I hope the audience will will be able to pick up some valuable lessons that they can use for themselves. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mads. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Excellent. Have a nice day.
Thank you for listening to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Please leave a review. It means the world to us. You can also learn more about management at madsingers.com.